Book 1, Telemachos in Ithaca. Sing to me of the resourceful man, O Muse, who wandered far after he had sacked the sacred city of Troy. He saw the cities of many men and he learned their minds. He suffered many pains on the sea in his spirit, seeking to save his life and the homecoming of his companions. But even so he could not save his companions, though he wanted to, for they perished of their own folly, the fools. They ate the cattle of Helios Hyperion, who took from them the day of their return. Of these matters, beginning where you want, O daughter of Zeus, tell to us. Now all the rest were at home, as many as had escaped dread destruction, fleeing from the war and the sea. Odysseus alone, a queenly nymph, Calypso, a shining one among the goddesses, held back in her hollow caves, desiring that he become her husband. But when, as the seasons rolled by, the year came in which the gods had spun the threads of destiny that Odysseus return home to Ithaca, not even then was he free of his trials, even among his own friends. All the gods pitied him, except for Poseidon. Poseidon stayed in an unending rage at godlike Odysseus until he reached his own land, but Poseidon had gone off to the Ethiopians who live far away. The Ethiopians who live split into two groups, the most remote of men, some where Hyperion sets, and some where he rises. There Poseidon received a sacrifice of bulls and rams, sitting there and rejoicing in the feast. The other gods were seated in the halls of Zeus on Olympus. Among them the father of men and gods began to speak, for in his heart he was thinking of bold Aegisthus, whom far-famed Orestes, the son of Agamemnon, had killed. Thinking of him, he spoke these words to the deathless ones. Only consider how mortals blame the gods. They say that from us comes all evil, but men suffer pains beyond what is fated through their own folly. See how Aegisthus pursued the wedded wife of the son of Atreus, and then he killed Agamemnon when he came home, though he well knew the end. For we spoke to him beforehand, sending Hermes, the keen-sighted Argeiophantes, to say that he should not kill Agamemnon and he should not pursue Agamemnon's wife. For vengeance would come from Orestes to the son of Atreus, once Orestes came of age and wanted to reclaim his family land. So spoke Hermes, but for all this good intent he did not persuade Aegisthus' mind, and now he has paid the price in full. Then the goddess, flashing-eyed Athena, answered him, O father of us all, son of Kronos, highest of all the lords, surely that man has fittingly been destroyed. May whoever else does such things perish as well. But my heart is torn for the wise Odysseus, that unfortunate man, who far from his friends suffers pain on an island surrounded by water, where is the very navel of the sea. It is a wooded island, and a goddess lives there, the daughter of evil-minded Atlas, who knows the depths of every sea, and himself holds the pillars that keep the earth and the sky apart. Calypso holds back that wretched, sorrowful man. Ever with soft and wheedling words she enchants him, so that he forgets about Ithaca. Odysseus, wishing to see the smoke leaping up from his own land, longs to die. But your heart pays no attention to it, Olympian. Did not Odysseus offer you abundant sacrifice beside the ships in broad Troy? Why do you hate him so, O Zeus? Zeus, who gathers the clouds, then answered her, My child, what a word has escaped the barrier of your teeth? How could I forget about godlike Odysseus, who is superior to all mortals in wisdom, who more than any other has sacrificed to the deathless gods who hold the broad heaven? But Poseidon, who holds the earth, is perpetually angry with him because of the Cyclops, whose eye he blinded, godlike Polyphemus, whose strength is greatest among all the Cyclops. The nymph Thusa bore him, the daughter of Phorcys, who rules over the restless sea, having mingled with Poseidon in the hollow caves. From that time Poseidon, the earth shaker, does not kill Odysseus, but he leads him to wander from his native land. But come, let us all take thought of his homecoming, how he will get there. Poseidon will abandon his anger. He will not be able to go against all the deathless ones alone, against their will. Then flashing-eyed Athena, the goddess, answered him, O our father, the son of Kronos, highest of all the lords, if it be the pleasure of all the blessed gods that wise Odysseus return to his home, then let us send Hermes Argeiophantes, the messenger, to the island of Ogygia, so that he may present our sure counsel to Calypso with the lovely tresses, that Odysseus, the steady at heart, need now return home. And I will journey to Ithaca in order that I may the more arouse his son and stir strength in his heart to call the Achaeans with their long hair into an assembly, and give notice to all the suitors, who devour his flocks of sheep and his cattle with twisted horns, that walk with shambling gait. I will send him to Sparta and to sandy Pylos to learn about the homecoming of his father, if perhaps he might hear something, and so that might earn a noble fame among men. So she spoke, and she bound beneath her feet her beautiful sandals, immortal, golden, that bore her over the water and the limitless land together with the breath of the wind. She took up her powerful spear, whose point was of sharp bronze, heavy and huge and strong, with which she overcomes the ranks of warriors when she is angry with them, the daughter of a mighty father. She descended in a rush from the peaks of Olympus and took her stand in the land of Ithaca in the forecourt of Odysseus, on the threshold of the court. She held the bronze spear in her hand, taking on the appearance of a stranger, Mentis, leader of the Taphians. There she found the proud suitors. They were taking their pleasure, playing board games in front of the doors, sitting on the skins of cattle that they themselves had slaughtered. Heralds and busy assistants mixed wine with water for them in large bowls, and others wiped the tables with porous sponges and set them up, while others set out meats to eat in abundance. Godlike Telemachos was by far the first to notice her as he sat among the suitors, sat at heart, his noble father in his mind, wondering if perhaps he might come and scatter the suitors through the house and win honor and rule over his own household. Thinking such things, sitting among the suitors, he saw Athena. He went straight to the outer door, thinking in his spirit that it was a shameful thing that a stranger be allowed to remain for long before the doors. Standing near, he clasped her right hand and took the bronze spear from her. Addressing her, he spoke words that went like arrows. "Greetings, stranger. You will be treated kindly in our house, and once you have tasted food, you will tell us what you need." So speaking, he led the way, and Pallas Athena followed. When they came inside the high-roofed house, Telemachos carried the spear and placed it against a high column in a well-polished spear rack where were many other spears belonging to the steadfast Odysseus. He led her in and sat her on a chair, spreading a linen cloth beneath, beautiful, elaborately decorated, and below was a footstool for her feet. Beside it he placed an inlaid chair, apart from the others, so that the stranger might not be put off by the racket and fail to enjoy his meal, despite the company of insolent men. Also, he wished to ask him about his absent father. A slave girl brought water for their hands in a beautiful golden vessel, and she set up a polished table beside them. The modest attendant brought out bread and placed it before them, and many delicacies, giving freely from her store. A carver lifted up and set down beside them platters with all kinds of meats, and set before them golden cups, while a herald went back and forth pouring out wine for them. In came the proud suitors, and they sat down in a row on the seats and chairs, and the heralds poured out water for their hands, and women slaves heaped bread by them in baskets, and young men filled the wine-mixing bowls with drink. The suitors put forth their hands to the good cheer lying before them, and when they had exhausted their desire for drink and food, their hearts turned toward other things, to song and dance. For such things are the proper accompaniment of the feast. A herald placed the very beautiful lyre in the hands of Phemius, who was required to sing to the suitors, and he thrummed the strings as a prelude to song. But Telemachos spoke to flashing-eyed Athena, leaning his head in near so that the others would not hear. "Dear stranger, will you be angry for what I say? These gatherings are their sole concern, the lyre and epic song, especially, and they devour without penalty the substance of another, of a man whose white bones rot in the rain, lying on the land, or a wave of the sea rolls them about. If they ever saw him return to Ithaca, every man of them would soon pray to be swifter of foot, not richer in gold or cloth. But as it is, my father has died a wretched death, nor is there any comfort for us, even if perhaps some one of the men who live on the earth were to say that he would come. The day of his return is gone. But come, tell me and say it truly, who are you among men, and where do you come from? Where is your city and your parents? On what kind of ship did you arrive? How did sailors bring you to Ithaca? Who did they say that they were? For I don't think that you came here on foot. Tell me this truly, so that I may know, whether this is the first time that you have come here, or whether you are a guest friend of my father. For many were the men who came to our house. He was widely traveled among men." The goddess, flashing-eyed Athena, answered him, "I will truthfully tell you all. I am Mentis, the son of wise Anchialos, and I rule over the Taphians, lovers of the oar. Now, as you see, I have come with a ship and my companions, sailing on the wine-dark sea to men of foreign speech, to Temesa after copper, and I bring shining iron. My ship is beached far from the city in a field, near the harbor of Raythron beneath wooded Neon. We say that we are guest friends of one another from a long ways back, even as our fathers were. If you want, go to the old warrior Laertes and ask him. They say that he no longer comes to the city, but that he suffers pains far away in a field, attended by an old woman as his servant, who places before him food and drink when fatigue has taken hold of his limbs as he creeps along the hill of his vineyard. Now I have come. They said that your father was among his people, said flashing-eyed Athena. But I see that the immortal gods prevent his return. And yet godlike Odysseus has not yet perished from this earth. He is still alive, held back on an island in the broad sea surrounded by water. Savage men confine him, I think, wild men who hold him all unwillingly. And now I will utter a prophecy that the deathless ones put into my mind, and I think it will come to pass, though I am no prophet nor one wise in the flight of birds. He will not be absent much longer from his father's land, not even if iron chains should hold him. He will figure out how to return, for he is a resourceful man. But come tell me this and say it truly, if, being so tall, you are the son of Odysseus himself. In your head and your beautiful eyes you seem amazingly like him, for we often communed together before he went off to Troy, where others too, the best of the Argives, went in their hollow ships. Since that day I have not seen Odysseus, nor has he seen me. Then the shrewd Telemachos answered her, I will tell you the whole truth, stranger. My mother says that I am his child, but I'm not so sure. No man ever knows for sure who his own parents are. Would that I was the son of some favored man who grew old among his own possessions. As it is, they say that I am the son of the most ill-fated of mortal men, since you ask. Then the goddess, flashing-eyed Athena, answered him, But surely the gods have made your lineage famous for the times to come, seeing that Penelope has borne you such as you are. But come, tell me this, and speak truly. What is this feast? What is this crowd? What is your need of it? Is this a drinking party or a wedding? Obviously this is no potluck. These men appear to act insolently, partying with arrogance throughout your house. It's enough to make a man of sense ooze anger if he came among them, seeing these shameful acts. Then the shrewd Telemachos answered her, Stranger, because you ask me these things and inquire so, you should know that this house was once rich and fine, so long as that man was among his people. But now the evil devising gods have wished otherwise. They have made that man invisible above all men. I would not grieve so much for his death if he had fallen among his companions in the land of the Trojans, or in the arms of his friends. Once he had reeled up the thread of war. All the Achaeans would have then made a tomb for him, and he would have won great fame for his son, too, in the days to come. But as it is, the storm winds have snatched him away, without report. He is gone from sight and out of hearing, and has left me only pain and weeping. And I do not weep and wail for him alone, because the gods have devised other pains for me. All the leading men who rule over those islands, Dulichian and Same, and wooded Zakynthos, and they who lord it over rocky Ithaca, all of them are suitors to my mother, and they ravage the household. She neither refuses the hateful marriage, nor can she get rid of them once and for all. And they consume my substance. Before long they will bring me to ruin. Pallas Athena indignantly answered him, Yes, surely you are in need of absent Odysseus, who would surely lay hands on these shameless suitors. Would that he were here now, standing before the outer doors of his house with his helmet and shield and 2 spears, just as when I first saw him in my house, drinking and taking his pleasure when he had come from Ephyra and the house of Ilos, the son of Marmaros. Odysseus went there on a swift ship to get a man-killing poison so that he might dip his bronze arrows in it, but Ilos would not give it to him. He feared the anger of the gods who never die. My father gave the poison to him, because he loved him very much. Would that Odysseus appeared with such strength in the midst of these suitors, I say. They would find a bitter and abrupt end to their courtship. All of this rests on the knees of the gods, whether or not he will return and take revenge in his halls. But I urge you to consider how you can drive the suitors from your halls. Come now, give me your ear, and listen to my words. Tomorrow call the Achaean warriors to an assembly and speak out your word to all, and may the gods be your witness. As to the suitors, urge them to scatter each to his own house. As to your mother, if she is minded to marry, let her go back to the house of her powerful father. There they will prepare a wedding and make ready the abundant gifts, as much as is appropriate to go with a beloved daughter. As for you, I will give you some good advice, if you will listen. Fit out a ship with 20 oarsmen, the best you can find. Go and find out about your father who has long been away, if some mortal will tell you. Or you may hear a voice from Zeus, which most often brings news to men. Go first to Pylos and inquire of godlike Nestor, and from there go to Sparta to blonde-haired Menelaos. He was last of the Achaeans who wear shirts of bronze to return to his house. If you hear that your father is alive and coming home, then, though you are hard-pressed, you can hold out for a year. If you hear that he is dead and no longer among the living, Then return to your native land and heap up a mound and make appropriate funeral offerings, as many as is fitting, and give your mother to a husband. And when you have accomplished these things and done them, then take counsel in your heart and mind how you will kill the suitors in your halls, either by a trick or openly. It is not right that you act as a child, for you are no longer a youth. Have you not heard what fame godlike Orestes won among all men when he killed the father's killer, the treacherous Aegisthus, who killed Agamemnon, his famous father? And you, my friend, for I see that you are handsome and tall, be valiant so that many of those who will live after will speak well of you. But now I will go down to my swift ship and to my companions, who I think are impatient waiting for me. But you give heed to my words, and pay them careful attention. Then the shrewd Telemachos answered her, Stranger, truly you have said these things with a friendly mind, as a father to his son, and I won't forget them. But wait now, stay a moment, though you wish to be on your way, so that you might have a chance to bathe and to satisfy your heart to the fullest. Then I will give you a gift, and you may be off on your ship, rejoicing in your heart, a costly gift, very beautiful, which will be an heirloom to you from me, such as guest friends give to other guest friends. Then the goddess, flashing-eyed Athena, answered him, No, don't hold me back, for I am eager to continue my journey. As for the gift that your heart bids you give it to me when I return to carry to my home, and choose a very beautiful one. It will bring you a similar one in return. So speaking, flashing-eyed Athena went off, flying upward as a bird, and she placed strength and daring in Telemachos' heart. She made him think of his father more even than he had been. In his mind he took account of her leave, taking, and he was amazed, realizing that she must be a god. Immediately he went among the suitors, a man like a god. A famous singer was performing before them, and they sat in silence and listened. The singer sang of the miserable return of the Achaeans that Pallas Athena imposed on them as they headed home from Troy. The clever Penelope, daughter of Icarios, heard the wonderful song from her chamber up above, and she went down the high stairway from her room, not alone, but 2 slaves followed along behind. When the fair lady came down to the suitors, she stood beside a pillar of the hall, so well constructed, holding a shining veil before her cheeks. A faithful handmaid stood on either side. Then in tears she spoke to the divine singer. Phemios, you know many other things that are charming to mortals, the doings of men and gods that singers make famous. So sing one of these as you sit there, and let them drink their wine in silence. But cease from this sad song that ever tears at the heart in my breast. For a sorrow never to be forgotten has come on me especially. I desire and think upon the head of that dear man whose fame is abroad throughout Hellas and mid-Argos. Then the shrewd Telemachos answered her, My dear mother, why do you not let the loyal singer bring pleasure in whatever way his mind urges him to? Singers are not to blame, but I think it is Zeus who is to blame. He gives to men who live on grain just as he wishes. It is no cause for anger if this man sings of the evil fate of the Danaans. Men praise that song more which comes freshest to the audience. Let your heart and spirit dare to listen. Not only Odysseus lost in Troy the day of his homecoming, but many other men perished. So go to your chamber and busy yourself with your own tasks, your loom and distaff, and order your handmaids to do their own work. Speech is man's concern, for every one of us, and especially for me, because the authority in this house is mine. Amazed, Penelope went back to her room, for she took to heart her son's wise speech. Going then into her upper chamber with her slaves, she bewailed Odysseus, her dear husband, until flashing-eyed Athena cast sweet sleep upon her eyes. The suitors broke into an uproar throughout the shady halls, and every one of them prayed that he might lie by her side. Then shrewd Telemachos began to address them. Suitors of my mother, though you are insolent, let us now take pleasure in the feast. But let there be no brawling. It is a good thing to hear a singer such as this one, whose voice is like that of the gods. But in the morning let us take our seats in the assembly, all of us, so that I may declare my views to you outright, that you depart from these halls, make up other feasts, devour your own possessions, changing from house to house. If you think it is better and preferable to destroy the substance of one man with impunity, go ahead and do it, but I will call upon the gods who live forever, in case Zeus may grant that you be punished for your acts. Then you would all perish here without remedy. So he spoke, and all the suitors bit their lips in astonishment, for he had spoken boldly. Then Antonos, the son of Eupeithes, spoke to him. Telemachos, surely the gods themselves are teaching you to be a man of boastful tongue and to speak boldly. May the son of Cronos never make you the chief in Ithaca surrounded by the sea, though it is your right by birth. Then shrewd Telemachos answered him, Antonos, will you be angry at what I am saying? I would be willing to accept even this chieftainship from the hand of Zeus. Do you think that this is the worst thing that can happen to a man? It is not a bad thing to be chief. Your house becomes rich right away and you are held in highest honor. But there are many other chiefs of the Achaeans in Ithaca surrounded by the sea, young and old. One of these may have this position, for godlike Odysseus is dead. But I will be the chief of my own house and of the slaves that godlike Odysseus won in his raids. Then Eurymachus, the son of Polybus, answered him. Telemachos, well, these things lie on the knees of the gods, who will be chief of the Achaeans on Ithaca surrounded by the sea. As for your possessions, you may have them and rule over your own house. May that man never come who takes away your possessions by violence so long as men still live on Ithaca. But, my excellent fellow, I would like to ask about this stranger. Where does he come from? From what land is he? Where are his kinsmen and his ancestral fields? Does he bring some news of your father's return, or does he come here with his own purpose in mind? How he leaped up and was gone. He did not wait for us to become acquainted with him, and yet he did not seem in any way to be a base man to look upon. The shrewd Telemachus answered him, Eurymachus, the homecoming of my father is no more. I no longer believe in any news, no matter where it comes from, nor do I put any faith in some prophecy that my mother may learn from a seer when she has called him into the hall. This stranger is a guest friend of my father, from Taphus. He says that he is Mentis, the son of wise Anchialos, and that he is lord of the Taphians who love to row. So spoke Telemachus, though in his heart he had recognized the deathless goddess. Now the suitors turned to the dance and to pleasant song, and they made merry. They partied until the evening should come. As they made merry, the dark night fell upon them. Then each man went to his own house to take his rest. Telemachus went to his chamber built in the very beautiful court, lofty, in a place of broad outlook. He went up to bed there, turning over many things in his head. Wise and faithful Euryclea went with him, the daughter of Ops, son of Pisenor, carrying blazing torches. Once Laertes had purchased her with his wealth, though he was still very young. He gave the price of 20 cattle, and he honored Euryclea in his halls as he honored his faithful wife. But Laertes never slept with her, avoiding the anger of his wife. It was she who carried the blazing torches for Telemachus. Of all the female slaves she loved him the best, and she had nursed him when he was a child. He opened the doors of the well-built chamber and sat down on the bed. He took off his soft shirt and placed it in the hands of the wise old woman. She folded the shirt and smoothed it out, then hung it on a peg beside the corded bed. Then she left the chamber, shutting the door by its silver handle. She drove the bolt home with its strap. There, all night long, wrapped in a woolen blanket, he pondered in his mind the journey that Athena had shown him.